Hey YouTube, welcome back to another informational video. Today I am out at Cali Nature Preserve, and if you can't hear, we've got some rain coming in, but hopefully we'll find a few dry spots. And I want to talk through a little bit more in depth how I shoot time lapses, how I shoot photo time lapses. If you watched my last video, I compared the two, the photo time lapse mode and the video time lapse mode on my Canon 77D, but I want to give a little bit more information on shooting that photo time lapse mode and give you some tips and tricks along the way. There's a waterfall out here, and I'm really hoping that because of this rain, it's going to be running pretty strong. We've had a lot of dry weather, so it actually hasn't been moving at all. But anyway, I'm going to get this put away because it is coming down, and we'll make our way out there. This is the 5th or 6th spider that I've almost walked face first into, but I just caught him. Life update. The fact that this creek is completely dry is not a great sign, but we're going to see if when we get closer, maybe some of the runoff from the last couple storms will have given the waterfall some water. These are some of the weird spiders we get around here. They have some fancy name that I've forgotten, but they look really scary, but apparently they're not venomous or anything like that. We're just about there, which is good because I'm just about done walking into spider webs. Okay, so we're in the final stretch. It's just over that hill right there, and I estimate that I'll run into 10 to 12 spider webs on the way. We'll see how this plays out. Okay, so I'm here at the waterfall. And technically you can call it a waterfall because there is water falling, but if you look with me here, it's a little less than impressive today. So that's what we got to work with. Normally when the creek's running, you'll have this entire rock shelf with water falling off of it, and it makes nice current at the bottom there, and then all of this water is normally this nice blue color, but I think because it's so dead, it's settled into this nice brown color. So this is what it normally looks like, or this is what it looks like with water running. And this is what we've got to work with today. So let's think about what to do here. Okay, so waterfall's dead, but we're going to find another spot. There's a big open field on this trail, and I'm hoping that because the sky's clearing up a little bit, there'll be some clouds, and we can shoot that. If you're watching this right now, it means I found something to take a bunch of pictures of and make a time lapse. Also, giant mushroom. Giant mushroom. That's impressive.
Anybody know what kind of turtle this is? He's got orange spots. He's pretty small.
Can you see that deer out there? He keeps huffing at me. I don't know if that means leave or how you doing. Do you hear that? That's the sound of running water, which means we can do a time lapse. Okay, so like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to show you how I shoot time lapses with the interval timer for the photography function of the camera. I apologize for the earbud. If you watched my last video on the difference between the two time-lapse modes, you know that the wind was killing and the water's probably not any better, so hopefully this sounds a little bit better. But anyway, I found my composition here. I've got this running water behind me. This is not going to be the greatest shot in the world. This is not going to be the most artistic shot in the world, but it'll do for today. Like I said, I wanted to shoot that waterfall, but the water just wasn't there for it. So what I'm going to do is get this composition set up so I have something in my foreground, which is going to be this big rock right here. And then I'm going to have this running water behind it. I'm shooting with the 10 millimeter end of the 10 to 18 millimeter lens. So nice and wide, and it's going to hopefully include most of the water behind here. And then I'm going to get my shutter speed set so I'm getting that the softness to the water. So I don't want to freeze that water. I want it to be, I want each individual shot that we're putting together to be a nice smooth photo of the water. So I'm going to get this set up, and then I'll show you what I do with my ND filters once we get that where it goes. Okay, so like I said before, I want to get, when it comes to exposure, I want my shutter speed to be slow enough that the water looks like it's soft, which is probably going to be about a second or two. So I'm going to play around with that. And then, like I said in my other video, I want my ISO to remain on auto mode, and then I want to underexpose it just a little bit. So if the sun does, it's coming out right now, so if the sun does come up overhead, this water won't, turn to overexposed white mess. So let me do that. Let me get my ND filter on. I think after I'm going to set my aperture at f11, so it's kind of right in the middle there. I think a 6-stop ND filter is going to be what I want, so let's find out. So that's got plenty of soft water. I actually am going to drop down to the 3-stop ND filter because I want there to be just a little bit more like texture to the water. The longer the exposure, the softer it's going to get. So I'm going to swap out for the 3, and then I should be able to bump my shutter speed up enough. Okay, so at the 3-stop, and again I want to shoot at ISO 200. At f11 I'm at 0.6 of a second. So we're going to give that a shot. I think that might be a little too short. We might have to just rely on the 6-stop and then use a higher ISO. Not ideal, but I want to make sure we get the shot right. So that's got the softness to it. No, it's actually not bad. I like that because once we get all these stitched together, we're gonna have movement coming through there. So this will look good. So now that we're here, so here's my composition. I was using live view there on my camera. You can see I'm at ISO 200 right now, and then I'm gonna swap out of live view, go to menu. On that 5th page of the shooting menu, I'm gonna click on the interval timer, enable, and then I can push info to get to the details there. And just like I did with the other one, 1-second interval. In other words, it's just going to take one shot after another. And then unlimited, because I don't know exactly how long I want to shoot right now. And once I've got that enabled, I'm going to make sure I want to turn off this timer, just make sure it doesn't interfere. Okay, so I'm just going to push my shutter speed or shutter button, and then it's going to start shooting. And if you can hear that, that's shooting real quick because 0.6 of a second isn't that long. And the advantage of this over what I did last time with the 8-second exposure is 8 seconds of exposure. If you want 1 second of video, you need something like, if I do the math right here in my head, you need something like 4 minutes of shooting just for 1 second of video, because those pictures are going to become individual frames of a video. On, say, a 30 frame per second video, that's about what you need, 4 minutes. But with this being 0.6 of a second, I can shoot significantly less time overall, and I'm going to still get the motion, I'm going to still get the movement. And with the last exposure I did at the bridge, that was 8-second exposure. I think I left it for 55 minutes, if I remember correctly, and it worked out to be about a 30-second, or maybe it's a 14-second video. I'll plug that in here. But all that to say, it's a huge time investment for a very short video. Whereas this, because it's just firing one off after another, you're getting way more frames per minute, I guess. And that way you don't have to sit around as long. So I'm going to let that do its thing. I'm going to grab a book and sit down and read and come back to this, and we'll see what our final product looks like. So we've been shooting for about 15 minutes now, and I think we've got about 500 shots maybe. Which should be plenty for a time-lapse. So let's go ahead and we'll just turn it off, and that'll stop it. See, it's recording those photos. And then here's a nice thing about, I guess any model that has the interval timer built in will have this, but because of this scroll wheel here, you can actually get a little bit of a review going into it. So this may be tough for you to see through the screen there, but if I just swirl this, you actually get to see what that water is going to look like as it flows. So we have plenty of photos. We can see that there's plenty of frames to get some motion and to show that. And this will look a little better once it's on the computer, obviously, but that way I know that I didn't mess up too bad, and you can tell that the light is relatively even and there's not any bright spots or dark spots or anything like that. So this will work out great. We're going to take this back home, and I edit in LumaFusion for iPad, so we're going to use that to process these images, get them stitched together, and turn them into a video. Okay, so now that I'm not covered in spiderwebs, I wanted to show you how I process time lapses in LumaFusion. So this is my iPad Pro. It's a first generation iPad Pro, so the slower one. It is borderline capable of 4K video editing. If you have multiple layers of 4K video, it starts really lagging. But with 1080p, it's fine. And then with things like a time lapse, as long as you give it some time to process stuff, it'll be fine. You'll see that. But I've got my iPad Pro, and then the really expensive Apple SD adapter, so I can import everything. The reason that I use LumaFusion is my computer is a 2011 MacBook Pro, and it is just incapable of doing anything with video, which is understandable. It's 8 years old, but that is off the table. So now I use this iPad because for $20 I was able to get this app, and it runs really, really smooth. So let's get down to editing. Okay, so I want to show you all how I process these once they're on the iPad. So first of all, we're going to open Photos, and we are going to, these are all the pictures, all the photos taken through that time-lapse interval timer earlier. And what we're going to do is select probably about 200 of them. I'm just going to do a small sample. You'll notice that for some reason Apple Photos decided to just put some random videos within the sorting of these photos. Couldn't tell you why, but be careful that you don't end up with videos that you don't intend to have in there. So I'm just going to select about 200 and remove this turtle as well. Select about 200, and then you open the share menu at the bottom and add to album. I'm going to create a new album, and I'm going to call this Lapse. That'll work. Okay, once we have that album created, we are ready to jump into LumaFusion, and I'm going to start a new project at 30 frames per second, create that, and then I'm going to go to my albums here at the top left, and you'll see that I tested this out earlier to make sure it worked right. I'll go into the album I just made, which is Lapse, and then I'm going to click this little, actually before I do this, let me make sure I explain this. At the bottom right, there's a global menu setting. So if you click on that, you'll see your fit mode. You want that to be on fit in this case, because you don't want the photos to just automatically crop themselves to 16:9. And then under photo, this slider, I think by default it's set at 2 seconds. So if you put a photo in, it'll automatically have a 2-second time span that it's up. We want to change that to 0.01 because we want it to just drop right in and go frame by frame. We don't want those to hold out or anything. So once you have those two settings changed, then you'll click this select check mark, and then you're going to click select all. And I usually give it a second or two to make sure that it actually is processing, that it's actually done what it needs to do. And then you're going to click and drag one time from the album down to the timeline. And it's going to be tempting to, if you're on an older iPad like me, it's not going to show you any real-time animation as it processes this, but as you see here, it will eventually drop in, and then you'll be ready to go. And then once I have these in here, depending on how many photos you're processing and if you already have video on your timeline or anything else, it can take some time to drop in like that. But once we have this, my first step is actually going to just be to export this as it sits. I'm not going to play with color or cropping or anything because I would have to do that frame by frame. Whereas if I export it as is, then I can play with the video file itself. It makes it a lot easier. So you'll see that I have 6.21 seconds of video here. That's 200 frames. I accidentally took about 900 before I stopped it, but I have plenty if I need it. And once this is exported, let's Okay, I'm going to go back into my photo library and just make sure that that worked. We'll view this here. It's working great. You can see all the water flowing and all that. So that's good. Hop back into LumaFusion, and then we are going to go into our photos. We're already there. Go into photos, just the general album. You can click on videos to pare it down. And then I'm actually going to start a new project just so I don't have to delete all those. So go back to your home screen, 30 frames per second still. And then I'm just going to grab the video I just made. Got it here. You can see that playing. Looks good. Again, like I said before, this isn't anything artistic. This isn't anything emotionally charged, but the waterfall wasn't looking like a waterfall today, and I wanted to make sure we had something to use for this. So my next step is going to be double tap on the clip in the timeline, and then I'm going to change the frame and fit at the bottom left. So obviously it's got these black bars because the photo is taken in 3:2 aspect and the video is in 16:9. And what I'm going to do to give this a little bit more movement, to give it a little bit more interesting appeal, I'm actually going to zoom in, and we can zoom in because we've got these video files that are really high quality. I'm going to zoom in like this, and I'm going to tap on the very beginning of the timeline at the little scrub at the bottom. And I'm going to push this plus button. And this plus button is going to set a keyframe. So that means that the first frame of this video will be in this position, and then I'm going to tap on the last frame, or slide over to the last frame, and I'm going to zoom out and give it just about as much space as we can without showing those black bars. And you can obviously position it however you see fit, but I'm just going to do something like that. So that's my opening and closing keyframe, and the rest will take care of itself as the video plays on. So if we play this in our preview right now, you can see that it's got that little bit of motion to it, and the water looks smooth. This is the advantage of doing these photo time lapses, that you can get the smooth water or the smooth clouds or show some motion, whereas the video time lapse you can't. Go back and watch my other video if you have questions about that. And then I'm going to go to add just a little clip of audio to it so it has some artistic flair here, and we'll just pick this here. I get all my audio from YouTube for free. They have within the YouTube Studio site, there's royalty-free music available. So if you're interested in using that, you can just hop into YouTube Studio and pull it off there. Then you don't have to pay for a subscription service. It's decent. And then I'm going to drop a transition at the end of each of these. I'm doing this really rough and keeping it simple, but if we watch our video here, simple enough, we got it. And then I'm going to click the share button at the bottom, export movie to photos, leave all the quality really high because these files are really nice files. We want to get everything we can out of them. And once that's written to photos, we'll go back into our Photos app, and here's our final product. So I hope that was helpful. If you have other specific questions about LumaFusion or about this process, you can comment below. Like I've said in past videos, I'm still learning the video side of things myself, but I will keep sharing tips and tricks as I figure out new things. And I appreciate you watching. I will see you next time.